Hello, everyone. MTL Sports here, episode 139. A lot of football action happened this past weekend. Football, a playoff weekend, I like to call it. Not only did we have the CFP semifinal games, we also had Wildcard weekend starting on Saturday and ending last night. So we'll review all of that. Plus, I think we'll sneak in some NBA, maybe some college basketball as well. So, with all that being said, guys, stay tuned.
Mitch to get 20 plus points, and that man already has 24.
Welcome back, everybody. Donovan Mitchell is going off at the moment, 24 points with about a little less than 6 minutes left in the first half. Cleveland is up by 6 after they lost to the Pacers last game. So I guess they're playing back-to-back games in Indiana. But back to football. Let's start college and work our way through last night. So first of the semifinal games, I believe it was Ohio State, right? Am I tripping?
Yeah, you would be tripping.
Was it Ohio State, Texas? Was the first one?
It was Penn State, Notre Dame.
It was Penn State, Notre Dame. All right, Penn State, Notre Dame. You had said before, Lawrence, you had Notre Dame in your parlays and straight up. What do you think about this game?
It was definitely a sweat. I thought I was out of it for a little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I was just hoping that the clutchness that we've seen from the Irish quarterback ever since the Northern Illinois loss was going to come into play, and he got it. He found it towards the end. He came in clutch, very clutch, when it mattered most. And that's kind of all you can really ask. I mean, what is it? I'm not gonna say it. I'm not lying. Like I said, I was sweating. Um, but man, it's just like the amount of mistakes that Penn State put themselves into. Because for a little bit, they were getting helped out. I'm not gonna say either team got helped out any egregiously more than the other, but like they got helped out and got kept in the game, and they didn't do much with it. Um, they got it was just one untimely turnover that, for the most part, cost them the whole game. Right there at the end, just put a knife in the coffin, call it a day.
Yeah, I think it was a good game. I was kind of sweating Notre Dame as well, but I think you were right on the money where you were saying last week how Penn State, everyone thinks this is their year, it's their year, and then something happens and then they lose a big game. So I think you kind of spoke that into existence. It's kind of been the trend. So you're right, that costly turnover late kind of sealed their loss. So I don't know. Their quarterback, I saw something on Twitter where it was like the Spider-Man meme or something. And it was like all the past Penn State quarterbacks in the past couple years, going back to C-Hack and even guys before him. It was kind of funny. But, I mean, they honestly haven't had a really – obviously, Christian Hackenberg was the first-round pick. I think he was picked last with the Jets, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was probably the most how do I put this?
He was the highest on the totem pole, but it's a pretty short pole.
Yeah. And I mean, he's a good quarterback. Hey, I know C-Hack. I know his family, so I'm not going to talk bad about him. But yeah, it's just something, it's like a curse of the Penn State quarterbacks. But every other position from that university seems to do good once they leave and go to the NFL. So I don't know. Aller, we'll have to see if he comes back next year. I don't think he has what it takes to go to the next level, though.
I do believe they bring him back, though, because he did have a good season. It just didn't end up the way he envisioned.
Yeah, I think he's back. I know his draft stock was rising, and he was contemplating going to the draft, but no, I think you got to go back and even though that this draft is kind of weak of quarterbacks, I think he's still got to go back and prove his value even more. Second game, Ohio State, Texas. Now, this one we were split. I had the Buckeyes in this one. I think you took Texas. What are your thoughts about this one?
Um, well, I don't think Sarkisian's a good coach. um, I don't know. They just Ewers, you could just tell, didn't have it going, and
Yeah.
I don't know. You got to be able to call it and throw in Manning when you can, and try to get something stirring more so than it did. But honestly, the inability to finish drives and plays, it just added up. Honestly, I kind of thought we'd see a Texas team that was able to come in clutch, but I think once Golden went down at the wide receiver position, it was a wrap. And he didn't come back in very often. But yeah,
Yeah.
you could tell it was over once he was out because they didn't have a sure enough weapon.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. I mainly picked the.
if you look at it, two of the Texas touchdowns were by the running back.
Yeah, I took Ohio State solely on the fact that I don't trust Ewers, and I said that hey, as long as Will Howard doesn't play from behind, they have a good chance of winning. And they, for the most part, they were in the lead for most of the game. So except for they were tied at one point, 14-14. If you look down here, third quarter they were tied 14-14. So as long as Will Howard didn't have to play from behind, I think he's a confident quarterback when he's either leading or tied for an opponent. But once he gets down, I feel like that's when his rationale, his thinking starts to get a little questioned. And Ewers, I don't know what he's thinking half the time. But to be fair, he doesn't have good receivers, as you said. Like once Golden went down, it just seemed like those guys just didn't know what they were doing. And they were already down, guys. I mean, their top two running backs tore their ACLs, right, in the preseason. So they're down to not to say they don't still recruit good guys, but I mean, their top guys are not even there. So, um, yeah, I think Ohio State defense really proved they can hang with the big ones, with the big boys, even the SEC teams like Texas. So, shout out to the defense. I think Jack Sawyer, he's playing his way into the first round. I said this last week. I thought his draft stock was rising. Now I think he's probably a borderline first round pick. I think a team could take a gamble on him and make him one of the top 3 or 4 defensive ends coming off the board in April. So Ohio State they played well, minimized mistakes, and just played a solid game overall. Anything
I
else to
mean,
add?
no. Going forward, Notre Dame, Ohio State.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to go opposite of each other again because I'm going to take Notre Dame um, for one more ride. I think it's just time that Notre Dame as a organization finally gets it done. Um, I think Ohio State, like you said, Will Howard has to be playing from ahead, and he has to be playing confidently. One thing I think Notre Dame can really do is one, get after him, and be aggressive on defense, especially in the secondary, which might be a little rough for him. But I think the bigger thing is offensively, Notre Dame can suck a game dry. We've seen it in past games. We haven't seen it in the most recent game against Penn State, but it also shows you the clutchness of Notre Dame from the Penn State game.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made a good case right there. I'm gonna take the Buckeyes. I feel like they've been playing well ever since they lost to Michigan. I think they took a hard look in the mirror and said, "Hey, we just gotta live up to expectations." A lot of guys on this team not only have immense talent, but they are making immense dollars. Right, a lot of guys are getting paid a lot of money there. Um, I think, I'm gonna say it again. Will Howard has to play from a position of power, has to play with the lead, or if it's 7-7, 14-14, whatever the case might be. Maybe if they're down like 7-14, 14-21, maybe he can pull it out, but I feel better with him leading the team from a position of them winning or being in the lead. I think the defense can go toe to toe with Notre Dame. And it's either going to be a high scoring game or it's going to be a low scoring game. I don't think it's going to be any in between. It's basically what side of the ball both teams want to, I guess, emphasize the most. And I don't know. Honestly, I feel like this might be a defensive battle. I know the point spread is 45, but I think this might be a defensive battle. This might be strictly in the trenches type of game, and it comes down to whatever secondary can make the least amount of mistakes, because I think both quarterbacks can take advantage, especially Ohio State with Jeremiah Smith. I mean, that kid is sensational. That kid is really good. He's one of the best wide receivers I've seen. Him and Ryan Williams from Alabama. They might be the best wide receivers I've seen in a while. Probably since like JJ and Jamar. I mean, honestly, they're really good. So we'll just have to see.
I love the synopsis. I'll weigh it in. I'll think about it. But we'll feel it out in the moment.
Yeah, fair enough. NFL action. Games were on Saturday. I think the first game on Saturday was Chargers Texans. Now, I think we both took the Chargers, and were we wrong? uh, Lawrence, do you want to? Actually, I want to unload. I think we can't. First of all, we can't pit Herbert. We can't pit Herbie in the same conversation anymore with the top four. There's a top four. There's an elite four. If you get the Pokemon reference, good for you. There's an elite four quarterbacks, all right, and then it's everybody else. If you want to argue, there's Mahomes is one, and then there's the elite quarterbacks. You can argue that too. But we know for a fact there's four really, really, really good quarterbacks: Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Lamar. Herbert is not in that tier anymore. I mean, 2 playoff games, and both playoff games he's played terrible. There's no way around it. He's had 2 different coaches, so you can't blame the coach. He's got Harbaugh, who's arguably one of the best coaches in the league, even though he took a hiatus to go to college. He's been 4 playoff series in 5 years and with the 3 NFC championships. I mean, his resume speaks for himself. But yeah, Herbert didn't show up to play. If Vlad McConkey didn't bail him out, honestly, this game would look probably uglier than it did. And shout out to Houston. They made the adjustments. They did enough to win. Joe Mixon had a big game. CJ Stroud took care of the ball. And Nico Collins balled out. I mean, that's pretty much all I got. Other than no more Herbie in the top 4. No more. Can't have it. What you got, Lawrence?
Yep. Well, honestly, no one on the Chargers, in my opinion, besides a few defensive standouts, did anything at all. Besides Lad McConkey and a few
McConkey bailed them out.
Defensive players. As a team overall, they were just sad. One thing the team needs desperately is they need a running back to crank out a season. I get it. They're good when they're healthy, but there's a reason why Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, were on a team before together, and neither one of them broke out because they both get hurt.
Yeah.
So I mean that was already a strike. Honestly, we talked about it before. We coming into the season, we thought the Chargers were going to be, a pretty mid to average team, not very good on some takes. So the fact that they made it to the playoffs pretty strong is good telling. So getting back next year shouldn't be too crazy out of mind. But yes, Herbert can no longer be part of the elite conversation, and honestly, he just hurts his case for the consistent conversation. The guys kind of know they're going to get you to the playoffs every year. Whether or not they go further, that's a different story. But like Hurts would be in that conversation. Hurts is by no means top tier. elite, but he'll get you to the playoffs every season. Um, and honestly, at least you know Hurts will do what he has to win a game. We haven't seen that from uh, Herbert this season or an AP season in the past.
What
Plus,
speaking of that, what tier do you think we put him in now? Is he in that Hurts tier where, it gets you to the playoffs? That Purdy tier gets you to the playoffs, or is he even below that? Is he in the Trevor Lawrence tier
that's
where
that's
it's
the tier.
like
That's the tier I would call it.
where you have
Because
a lot of talent but you can't get it done?
yeah, it's the to be determined tier. It's like you give us small snig bits, but that's about it.
I agree. I agree with that 100%. Um, I think we gotta stop giving excuses to some of these guys. That starts with Herbert. I mean, two bad playoff games, two different coaches. Um, what's the excuse now? He doesn't have any. So shout out to the Texans though. They proved us wrong. They proved everyone wrong that wanted that fifth seed so bad. So what happened? Next up, Ravens Steelers. Now I was wrong about this one. I thought Russ had some magic left in the tank. Obviously, he did not. Lamar and King Henry kind of just had their way with the Steelers, and yeah, it's not looking good for the Steelers moving forward. Lawrence, what do you think about this game?
I mean, honestly, I think you're foolish to say do you want Mike Tomlin out of there just based on the consistent nature that you get out of the team each year. But I
Yeah,
also think that Mike Tomlin needs to take a look in the mirror and understand that like if your roster isn't there, like fully ready to make moves, then maybe it is good to take a year off and not be as dominant. Because the main problem the Steelers are having is I just kind of want to put it like they just keep getting the average talent, like the average talent between each round.
yeah,
And normally it's like the high end talents that are good. Like even a guy who gets to the top of the second round, there are still a lot of people looking at him. And towards the middle of the first and stuff, you get a lot of stinkers. Some guys who they were just overvalued for their production in college, but in reality were not that good. Um, Regardless if someone skips to the second round, you know, wide receivers get um seemingly get taken right at the beginning of the second. So like you're constantly missing out on picks that could be better. You're in this ineptitude of yeah, we're good enough, but never great enough. Um, Running it back with quarterbacks that kind of need to be either retired or they don't need a second chance. Kind of referencing Big Ben. I mean, he should have retired. And then some of the, I mean, let's face it, Kenny Pickett was never going to be the answer. And honestly, that one is what hurts the most is you guys had something that bad, and yet you still were able to win games because of your defense. And just think about all the wear and tear over this course of time you put on that defense. And you saw it in the game how some of them were so gassed. They've
yep,
been worn down all season.
yeah. Looking back, it was a foolish pick. It was just me thinking, hey, Russ, future Hall of Famer, most likely plays well in the playoffs. And against a division rival that Lamar has struggled against in the past, maybe they have enough magic to get something going, but they couldn't take advantage of the fact that Zay Flowers was out. It looked like they didn't miss a beat without Zay Flowers. Bateman stepped up good. Of course, Andrews and Likely had the couple catches, but I think you're right in the money. Um, they can't keep this same mentality of, hey, at least we're winning. That's all that matters. I think Tomlin has lost like what 6 straight playoff games. He like can't get out the first round. Um, that's not the Steeler way. That's not what they're built for. And yeah, he's a really good coach. It's dumb to kind of think that they should fire him. and they won't. That's not what's going to happen. But I think you're right, Lawrence. He needs to decide. Hey, maybe we need to take a step back. Let's get rid of some of these guys. Let's get some assets. You don't have to do a full rebuild, a soft rebuild. Um, if you really care that much about some above 500 streak, then that's foolish as well. I think take a year off, tank. You don't even have to tank. You can just play for the fourth place spot. Maybe teeter on third place, fourth place, so that the next year you not only do you pick good, but you'll have an easier schedule and you can bounce right back. Your core guys aren't that old, so honestly, one bad year is not the worst idea. And all you need is a quarterback. So this year's quarterback draft is not it. Who knows about next year? It might be better, might be worse, but I think anything's better than what they got. I don't think Russ is coming back. Fields, if I'm Fields, I probably don't want to come back just because you kind of been dangling me. You let me start for 5 games, and you sat me on the bench for what? A guy that was doing just about the same as that I was. If you would have given me a shot, you could argue that maybe he would have the same numbers, if not better. So, if I'm Fields, I'm leaving too. So, where does that leave the Steelers? Sam Darnold? Do you want to overpay for that after what happened last night? I don't know. What do you think,
He'll get
Lawrence?
he'll get you to the playoffs and then put you in the same spot you just at.
Yeah. So I think we both agree, right? You just maybe tank for a year, not even tank, just be in fourth place for 1 year, picking the lottery, top 15, and hope for the best.
Yeah, I mean they're not going to do that though. This is the Steelers we're talking about. They're going to give the false illusion that they're going to make a move.
Yeah, you're right. Well, if you're a Pittsburgh fan, um, you got a good head coach, got a good organization, but you're gonna be stuck in this little spiral of pretty much just being mid. Honestly, we want to be keeping a buck. It's pretty much just being mid, being mid, winning, getting above 500, and then losing in the first round. Sounds like another organization, but probably not as run as bad. So Sunday, first game, Broncos Bills. This is an ass whooping. Rightfully so. Shannon Sharp was talking all that mess about the Broncos all season just to get their ass kicked by the Bills.
One of the only winning teams they beat all season was the Chiefs without their whole roster.
Yeah, and
So
the Chiefs. Yeah, we didn't lose that on purpose. We'll play anyone, anywhere, anytime. Let's keep it a buck. Y'all didn't want the Bengals in there. Ain't no way y'all think y'all got beat 38. What was it, 38-0, right?
hmm
Yeah, I don't want to hear it. They didn't. No one wanted the Bengals in the playoffs. Broncos was easy pickings for them. So, but hey, Bills play well. I'm not going to downplay anything. Bills play well. James Cook played well. Josh Allen, of course, played well. Defense looked really good. Broncos have been able to put up points. In other games this season, but come playoff time, I don't know if it's Bo Nick's first playoff game, the nerves got to him, or maybe they overachieved this year. What do you think?
Well, I think they definitely overachieved. However, in reality of it is they just weren't that good. I mean, like I said before, they beat up the NFC South. They went 4-0 against the NFC South. No one in the NFC South was really that amazing.
Yeah.
So does that strike me as a surprise that they face a good team like the Bills and get stomped first round? In a cold, snowy Buffalo day. No, that doesn't really surprise me.
Mhm.
I was already
Yeah.
calling for it.
Yeah, I saw this one coming. I think you even said let's double down on the Bills after the Broncos scored that first touchdown.
Yeah, I thought they were going to move the line a little bit. They didn't do anything. And you know what? I just said, Well, fuck it. I'll just take it at -4.5. And by golly, -4.5 was true to its word. Easy pickings.
Yep, that's the books for you. So shout out to the Bills. They play the Ravens this upcoming week, so that should be a really good one. Second game on Sunday, I believe, was Packers Eagles. Um,
I can honestly say that I didn't watch a whole lot of this one.
yeah,
Um,
I was gonna say the same thing.
I had to go to a dinner for a family dinner for a birthday, and straight up, anytime I looked over at the TV, the Packers were losing the ball, giving up the ball, or the Eagles had the ball. Um, you could kind of say the refs were trying to bail the Eagles out at some points, but no, the refs weren't even needed. I mean, you can talk about it if you want to talk about it. The Packers beat themselves straight out.
Yeah, they didn't play well. Jordan Love got a little pass happy, turnover prone, kind of reverted back to what he was at the beginning of the season. Um, yeah, another guy who I don't think we ever mentioned him in the elite category, but a guy that was on the cusp of being mentioned in that category. Yeah, we can't have that anymore. Now he has one playoff win against them boys, but let's be honest, it's them boys, and
But he almost beat the 49ers the week after, so
this is true.
he
This is
did
true.
he did get hoed by the refs. In my honest opinion, it came down to the fact that too many of the best Packer players were gone. I kind of thought it was ropes, even though I thought they had life. I thought it was kind of ropes for this game when Jerry Alexander was confirmed not going to play.
He didn't
When they
play, and then didn't was it Dobbs or Reed that left the game?
Dobbs, and
It
then
was Dobbs. Yeah,
Watson got hurt last week, so
yeah,
they're
he tore his
just they're
ACL.
just a bag of bones. Like they've been stripped apart. It's the wheels fell off.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll talk about it more once we review all the teams. But yeah, they need a real makeover at wideouts because either the guys can't stay healthy or the guys aren't consistent enough to really, help out Jordan Love all that much. So they need a whole new makeover at wideout. So we'll see what they do this offseason. And then the last game for Sunday, Tampa and the Commanders. I think we both picked Tampa, right? Yeah, I think I definitely had Tampa. I thought it'd be a close game, but Tampa will be able to pull it out. They were, Baker had the magic on his side, but that fumble, I think it was in the fourth quarter with that fumble. That honestly sealed the deal. What do you think, Lawrence?
I'm kind of there with you. No matter what Tampa Bay did, they never had fluid, long-standing drives like Commanders did. Um, Honestly, it kind of felt outside of a few drives, Tampa Bay struggled just to get first downs, whereas Washington was just getting them left and right. Um, and honestly, the Commanders, like they had a player like every position do something awesome. I mean, outside of Marcus Lattimore. But anywho,
Yeah, he didn't play too well.
some might say he got slightly cooked.
Nah, Mike was cooking him, and Mike said he would keep his what did he say? Keep his emotions in check for this one, and then Lattimore is still talking crap. It's just like, bro, Mike Evans has literally gotten the best of you pretty much in every matchup. Like, at some point, you just gotta shut up. At some point, um, Commanders though. Jaden did it. He did it. He did his thing. Rookie quarterback. Won his first playoff game. Shout out to him. Hey, they're playing with house money at this point. A lot of people didn't think they would make the playoffs. They made the playoffs. Some people didn't think they'd win this game. They won this game. So going into Detroit, they're playing with house money, and that's kind of scary for a team that ain't supposed to be here. Yeah, they're a little early, but Jaden's proven that he's been able to do well in high pressure situations. So shout out to him, and we'll talk about them next week. But anything else? Um. Oh, we got last night. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I agree. I think I don't think the Rams played well. I don't think they played outstanding. If that makes sense. Like they didn't have to win. It's just like you said, the Vikings kind of shot themselves in the foot. Sam's holding on to the ball too long, making mistakes, um, not being able to move the ball really. They couldn't run the ball to save their lives, so that didn't help. And then they got down. They got down big early, so became pretty predictable about what they were going to do. And yeah, it just wasn't second game in a row of a bad performance for Sam. Honestly, I think his value, I don't think it's tanked that much, but to say that he's going to be there, be the Vikings starter next year instead of JJ, I think that ship has sailed. I feel like if I'm the Vikings, I'm probably hedge my bet, or not even hedge. I'm probably risking keeping JJ and letting him walk, because honestly, you can probably say that JJ would have done the same, if not maybe a little bit better. Mm-hmm. You're not wrong. I think there's a lot of teams that need bridge quarterbacks. So if you need a bridge quarterback for a year or two, I don't think he. I think before you could argue that he's going to get paid like 50, 55 million. Now I'm thinking you're probably not getting no more than Baker money. Like you're probably getting 30 to 35. Like I don't. I think that's how much he's tanked his value. You know, if he would have won this game, I think there's a really good case to be made that the team has to pay him 50 million. Now I think it's probably 30, 35. What do you think? Into a bridge team, maybe like go back to the Jets. The Jets. I know Gino said he doesn't know if he's going to be back. Maybe the Seahawks take a flyer on Sam for a year. Yep, this is true. This is true. So, what other teams need a quarterback? Maybe the Saints have Derek Carr. This might be something we revisit in a week or two, but I think he's still going to get paid, just not 50 million. But yeah, I think to me, to me, the Rams they honestly kind of looking like 2021 Rams. I hate to say it, that's the team that beat my Bengals. Um, don't want to refer to them too often, but honestly, they're starting to have shades of that team. I think the real test is next week when they play. They play the Eagles, right? Um, so we'll see what they can do to the Eagles and Jalen Hurts because their pass rush, the Rams D tackles, D ends, are getting to the quarterback pretty well. So we'll see how, and their DBs are actually playing decently too. So we'll see how they fare against honestly better competition. So should be interesting. That's it for Wildcard Weekend. Speaking of some NBA though, we already talked about the Cavs lost to the Pacers. Ended their little win streak they had going on. I think it was like what 13. Did they win 13? Then that was the Thunder that lost. They were like 13 in a row. Um, yeah, the Knicks lost last night to the Pistons. Pistons surprisingly are not bad, Lawrence. I think they're like what 7th or 8th in the East. They're they're tied for 7th right now, 21-19. K's playing well. He's most likely going to be an All-Star. And then they got some just good pieces. Jalen Duren, one of the Thompson brothers is there. Jaden Ivey, I think, is out, but they still got production from other guys. So they're a sneaky team. I didn't see this. I thought they would be bad again. I thought the Hornets would be in their spot, but the Hornets are bad. So the Hornets are 8-28. They're bad. This is true. They play hard. I'll give them that. They play hard. LaMelo's fun to watch. LaMelo should be an all-star. Honestly, he might be borderline starter, all-star starter. He's just been playing super good, and he's staying healthy for once. So that's a good look for the Hornets. Yeah, Brendan Miller was playing well. I don't know if he's hurt currently or like he's so he just kind of been dealing with injuries this season. My Heatles were on a 3-game win streak. They lost to the Clippers last night. I think Bam did not play. So, and the Heat were leading for a good chunk of the game. I think the second half, they just lost their mojo, couldn't hit a three to save their life. I stopped watching the game. It was getting a little bit too late for me. Jimmy news. Jimmy's probably going to return Friday. I don't think there's going to be any trade that gets approved by Friday. I think from what I've seen, the Heat don't like any of the offers they've gotten for Jimmy. And I think Jimmy at this point is headstrong about joining the Suns, but the Heat don't want that Beal contract. I know I said that I wouldn't mind Beal, but I mean I think that contract's a non-starter with them. They don't want $50 million on their books for the next, I think this year and the next year and then the year after. So yeah, they don't want that. So it's tough to see a lot of this stuff coming out about Jimmy, about he's apparently flying private instead of taking the team blame for a couple of games and missing shoot arounds and all this other crap. Honestly, at this point, Lawrence, I am in the boat of you just got to trade him before Friday. His value's tanked. It is what it is. You're not going to get a haul back for him. I think you just got to take the best deal. Because they were playing well without him. They gotten this far without him, so it's not like if he comes back and he half-assed it. I mean, what does that do to the team? They're just going to be pissed off. They're already kind of pissed off at him. They're taking shots at him the other day. Hero said something like, "Oh, we're happy with the guys we got in the locker room right now, and we've kind of locked up the outside noise and stuff like that." So they're already kind of taking little jabs at him. So I think at this point it's just better off to move on. You're not going to get what you want, Pat. You're just going to have to move on, bro. What do you think? Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I think not to say the season's a lost cause by any stretch. I think you know they've been teetering on that top six, top seven, uh, you know, playoff seeding without Jimmy for most of the year. So, like I said, he comes back and he half asses. I mean, what does that do for you? It doesn't do anything. If anything, the mojo kind of gets fucked up some more, and you start losing games. The team isn't good. The team can't win more than three in a row, which is a problem. So they're not a good team. They're a decent team, and at this point, I think you just got to take what you can get, and just move on. I think it's just too toxic of a situation. Something that they should have gotten ahead of in the summer when the rumors started coming out that he wanted to get paid, and he didn't like what Pat said about him. They should have traded him then, but I think they got a little arrogant. They got a little stubborn and said, "Hey, Heat culture, we can change them. You can't teach an old dog new tricks." So it's the same old Jimmy at the end of the day. So you can't hate him. You just gotta hate the Heat um, for not being able to see that this one was coming. This had all the writings on the wall. But other NBA news, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there were some good games. I haven't been watching too much NBA with all the playoff action, so I think next week we'll be able to talk about some more NBA. If maybe if even if Jimmy doesn't get traded or whatever. So um, that's all I got. Second episode of Raw last night was good on Netflix. It was a good episode. Penta came over from AEW, the Luchador legend. I like this first match against Chad Gable. I don't know if you watched it, Lawrence. I knew you were traveling, but that was a good first match for him. I liked all of his moves. I never seen the guy before, but he can wrestle. The second episode overall was good. Not great, I think. It was good, so we'll see if it picks up in episode 3 next week. Any thoughts? Yep. Ain't nothing happened. You hate to see it. Oh well. You get up next time. It's a no sweat, so you good. You keep your money. Hopefully you hit on the next bet. Uh, Fair enough. Go Razorbacks. Other than that, NTO Sports episode 139. We will see you guys later this week. Peace.